Divine revelation confirmed for your miraculous calling in 7 days. In the heart of a quiet English village, a humble baker named Thomas awoke from a troubled sleep, one hand lingering on his chest, feeling an unfamiliar warmth. He had just glimpsed a vision that would shake the very foundations of his modest existence. Ancient whispers filled the air, and with them a radiant figure emerged, Enoch. Bright beams of light cascaded around him, casting a heavenly glow that seemed to breathe life into the worn wooden beams of the chapel as Thomas watched in awe. "Believe," Enoch urged, his voice like rolling thunder softened by the gentle patter of raindrops against the chapel roof. "Miracles await you. If you have faith, the 7 days will reveal the depths of your calling." When he awoke, the shadows of doubt clung to him like winter fog. His heart raced with the echo of those words, and suddenly the long simmering hopes of his heart sparked into brilliant flame. Today would be different. With fervent prayers, he gathered his wife and children, their voices rising in melody, weaving together faith and longing. As the warm glow of the night enveloped them, he shared this divine message, but skepticism met him at the door. "Thomas," his wife murmured with concern, the weight of their struggles casting a pall over her brow, "we've prayed so hard. What makes this any different?" Still, the flame of Enoch's vision flickered alive in him, urging him to share it with the village. Against the backdrop of the quaint chapel, faith swelled and wavered in equal measure. The weekly prayer meeting buzzed with the sounds of earnest voices, mixing seamlessly with the scent of rising bread from Thomas's own bakery. But doubt hung thick as villagers pondered how to remain hopeful amidst the pall of despair. But Thomas spoke up. "Friends, I had a dream. Enoch will guide us to something miraculous if we just believe." Whispers of disbelief coiled through the air like vine tendrils, tightening around the hearts of those who were once resolute. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Storm clouds rolled in that night, a furious symphony above, sending lightning to pierce the darkness. Just as despair pulled at his heart, tragedy struck. A beloved neighbor met with misfortune. Thomas's knees hit the cool stone floor of the chapel, and he cried out, "Where are you, Lord? Is Enoch's message but an empty promise?" The depths of his sorrow, he poured out his heart. As tears streamed from his eyes, a silent prayer rose. Was there even a shred of hope? Just then, as dawn's light began to break through, an astonishing sight unfolded. The chapel, once dull and shadowed, transformed into an oasis of light. The sun danced upon the stained glass, casting rainbows that flickered and shimmered like divine promises upon those gathered outside. Gasps of wonder filled the village. Could it be? They murmured, their faith rekindling like the embers of a long dormant fire. Thomas stood there, heart racing, on the brink of something monumental. Could Enoch's message be true? As hope fluttered in their chest, uncertainty lingered like a whisper waiting to be answered. Would they take the step of faith together? With the dawn of a new day, a miraculous calling loomed, waiting to transform the village in ways they had never imagined. What destiny awaited them in these 7 days? The air buzzed with possibilities, drawing them nearer to a truth that could change everything. The sun climbed higher, spreading warmth across the village, igniting renewed hope in every heart. Thomas felt the stirring energy within him like a gentle breeze, coaxing him to step further into this uncharted path. Each day would reveal another piece of the divine tapestry, and he was ready to embrace it. He called a meeting at the chapel for the next evening, a gathering meant to nurture and nourish the embers of belief flickering within the hearts of his neighbors. As he paced through the bakery, kneading dough with hands shaped by toil and care, Thomas prayed for revelation and assurance. "Lord, guide me. Let this message bear fruit," he breathed, kneading the bread with fervent intention. As night fell, the chapel glowed with warm candlelight. Villagers trickled in, their faces etched with curiosity and unease. Thomas stood before them, a humble figure on the weathered altar. His eyes shone with the fire of expectation. He recounted the vision of Enoch, recounting in vivid detail the divine promise of miracles. Each word echoed in the open space, filling it with an intimate reverence. Yet, despite the flicker of faith in some faces, others remained skeptical. Old Mr. McCarthy, the village skeptic, rose to interject. "What proof do you have, Thomas? All promises seem empty when hardship encircles us." Thomas felt a pang, but he held his ground, remembering the warmth he felt when Enoch spoke to him. What if we choose to believe, even for a moment? What if our hope becomes the seed for miracles? The room whispered, skepticism battling with longing. Suddenly, the chapel door swung open, and a figure appeared, young Sarah, the baker's daughter. Her face held a glimmer of something unusual. Breathless, she shouted, "The river! It's overflowing with colors! God's light is shining in the waters!" A stir of excitement swept through the crowd, curiosity gripping their hearts stronger than doubt. Thomas felt a surge of energy. "Let us see!" he declared, moving swiftly towards the door, the villagers following like a wave of eager souls. They reached the riverbank, and there an incredible sight met their eyes. A brilliant cascade of light danced across the surface, illuminating the dark waters. Reflecting hues of gold and blue, it formed a mesmerizing rainbow that seemed to beckon them closer. Gasps filled the air, and disbelief melted into awe. Thomas stood at the forefront, gripping his daughter's shoulder, his heart swelling with gratitude. "This is the promise of faith. Look how the light breaks through the darkness." A moment of silence enveloped them, as each soul present appeared both stunned and electrified. An older woman, often known for her cynical streak, wept openly, her heart cracking against the barrier of doubt. Could this be a sign, Thomas? Is Enoch's message truly our calling? The air hummed with a palpable sense of expectation. "Yes," Thomas exclaimed. "Tonight is the beginning. We are on the brink of something miraculous." As they returned to the chapel, the essence of unity surged through them. Hope mingled with purpose, drawing them together in a shared mission. The village was awakening from slumber, ready to embrace whatever divine journey lay ahead. Yet, lurking in the shadows, doubts still clung like bitter residue. How would this miracle manifest? And would they be able to hold on to the faith necessary to carry them through the days ahead? The answers hovered just beyond their grasp. But one thing was certain: the days to come would demand more than belief. They would require courage to step wholly into the light. As the chapel filled with songs of praise, Thomas's heart thudded with anticipation. The miracles awaited them, drawing ever closer. But as the evening deepened, one question lingered in the air like a sweet scent. What if they dared to walk the very path of faith that Enoch had outlined? Would they discover their miraculous calling before the final sunset of the seventh day? The dawn broke with a gentle light, spilling across the village and wrapping it in a soft embrace. Thomas awoke with a heart full of possibility, the events of the night still vivid in his memory. The river, the colors, the stirrings of faith. It all felt like a divine invitation. As he stepped outside, he could feel the earthy scent of morning mingling with the promise of something new. Excitement buzzed through him like a vibrant melody. He thought of the villagers who had gathered in the chapel the night before, their minds caught between skepticism and hope. Today, he sensed, they would need more than just words. They needed action, an opportunity to step boldly into faith. Gathering his courage, Thomas called out to those who passed by, urging them to spread the word. "Meet me at the river after breakfast. We will not just see the colors. We will create a tapestry of light through our faith and actions." Curiosity and whispers followed him like a shadow as people shared his message. It felt electric, a community on the brink of divine action. Families finished their meals quickly, children tugging at their mother's sleeves, eager to see what was to unfold. As Thomas approached the river, he felt a joyous energy crackling in the air. The water, thick with shimmering hues, sparkled under the midday sun. He gathered everyone together, their faces glowing with excitement and a hint of trepidation. He stood at the water's edge, the vibrant colors reflecting in their wide eyes. "Today," he proclaimed, "we show our faith through community. Just as Enoch believed in the extraordinary, we must recognize the extraordinary within ourselves." He gestured toward the flowing river. "Let us take these waters and fill them with our shared prayers, our dreams, and our hopes." A powerful hush fell over the crowd. Slowly, villagers began to step forward, their voices blending with a deep yearning as they dropped petals, stones, and handwritten prayers into the waters. Each offering was a flicker of faith, infused with heartfelt intention, rippling outward into the depths. Among them, old Mr. McCarthy stood, eyes glistening, a wet scrap of paper clutched in his trembling hands. "Forgive me, Lord," he murmured, as he too released his burden into the current. "Help my unbelief." Tears flowed freely now, tears of joy, of hope, of momentary surrender. Thomas felt his own heart swell, warm and illuminated, as he marveled at the transformation unfolding before him. They were uniting, weaving together their individual faith into something stronger than themselves. Suddenly, a wind stirred, playful and light. Thomas felt its cool touch, a divine caress that felt like an answer, a connection to something much larger. He raised his hands, inviting the river's shimmering beauty to arise and envelop them all in the light. "Our faith is alive, and together we will witness miracles," he declared, his voice steady with conviction. There, amidst the gentle lapping of water against the shore, something shifted. The river shimmered ever brighter, the colors swirling into shapes that seemed almost alive, dancing, twirling, beckoning. The crowd gasped as they began to see divine symbols forming before their very eyes. The awe became a collective prayer, each person longing for understanding, for miracles, for a taste of heaven on earth. As they stood engulfed in that mystical moment, a question arose in Thomas's heart. What truly waited ahead for their united faith? Would they recognize the deeper messages hidden within their sacred offering? Just as he pondered, a brilliant flash broke through the colors, capturing the attention of every villager. It was a herald of something extraordinary to come. "Watch closely," Thomas whispered with a sense of urgency, "for today may be just the beginning of our miraculous journey." The brilliance of the flash danced before their eyes, swirling with colors that seemed to shimmer and sing, calling their spirits to rise. The villagers stood breathless, as though time itself had paused. Thomas felt an electric charge of anticipation deep within him. As if the very essence of the river breathed, alive with potential. Something deep within his heart whispered, "This moment is sacred. It carries the weight of God's promise." Whispers broke through the silent awe, voices trembling with wonder. "What does it mean?" asked young Mary, her eyes alight with curiosity. "Can we trust what we see?" Thomas turned his gaze to the river, filled with vibrant colors that drew all eyes. "It means we need to believe," he said earnestly, his heart aching for each soul before him. "Just as Enoch walked with God, trusting in what was unseen, we too must step forward with faith." The crowd murmured, their thoughts swirling like the colors in the river. Trust, faith, hope. These words were much more than just concepts. They were calls to action. Still, doubt lingered like shadows at sunset, blocking the way for those who hesitated. Thomas took a step closer to the water, feeling its innate power hum beneath him. "Look!" he pointed. As if in response to his words, the colors twisted into the figure of a winged angel, beckoning them closer. A collective gasp echoed through the villagers, eyes wide with astonishment. "Do you see it?" Thomas asked, his voice soft yet firm. "This is a sign, a testimony of God's presence among us, a reminder that we are never alone." At the edge of the crowd, Mr. McCarthy raised his trembling hand, still aglow with the light of his confession. "But how do we respond to such glory?" he questioned, his voice thick with longing. "What if we falter? What if we fail to comprehend the depth of this moment?" "Don't fear failure," Thomas replied, steel in his voice, a comforting warmth radiating from him. "Embrace your vulnerability. The journey of faith is never a straight path. We will stumble, yet each step we take together builds our spirit." With that, he lowered his hands to the surface of the water, inviting each villager to join him. "Let us create waves of hope. Let us send forth our dreams as offerings of faith." One by one they stepped forward. Parents with children clutched in their arms, teens searching for identity, even the elderly, eyes brightening as they released their hopes into the flowing current. Pebbles were tossed, flowers entrusted to the river, all infused with whispered prayers. With every offering, the colors shimmered more vibrantly, the air around them thick with possibility. There was laughter among the tears, joy mingling with a sense of awe. Suddenly, the wind picked up again, playful yet earnest, brushing against their faces. A kiss from heaven. Thomas closed his eyes and felt it, the Spirit moving among them, beckoning them deeper into a mystery wrapped in a promise. "What do you sense?" he asked aloud, seeking answers in the silence. "It feels like freedom," called out young Samuel, reveling in the newfound lightness that had enveloped his spirit. "Or restoration," added Mrs. Thompson, her hands clasped together in prayer. "I feel as if burdens are lifting." As their faith amalgamated, the symbols in the water twisted and reshaped, unveiling the deeper message they longed for. Something truly extraordinary was unfolding before them, a revelation like no other. Hope intermingled with expectation. They stood on the brink of a miracle. Yet, within the placid beauty of the river, Thomas sensed a stirring of urgency. What comes next, he wondered, casting his gaze across the enchanted scene before him. What divine truths awaited them, hidden within this tapestry of color and faith? He looked out over the village, contemplating what God had yet to reveal. Would they rise to the occasion? Would their hearts remain open to the greater calling ahead? As they stood there, awash in vibrant hues and miraculous dreams, Thomas could almost hear the whisper of a promise. Their journey was just beginning. As the wind swirled around them, carrying the scent of wildflowers and promise, Thomas opened his eyes to a scene of breathtaking beauty. The river, alive with shimmering light, felt as though it was a fountain of divine communications, whispering secrets yet unknown. Around him, the villagers exchanged glances, some filled with awe, others with a deep yearning that left a flicker of worry in their hearts. "Can you feel it?" Thomas asked, his voice breaking the quiet that wrapped around the gathering. "This is not just a moment for us to witness. It's a call to engage. God is revealing something profound through the colors, through the very current of the river." The anticipation hung heavy in the air, and Thomas could see it reflected in the eager faces of those around him. Young Mary tugged at her mother's sleeve, her small voice cutting through the hushed atmosphere. "What does he want us to do, Thomas? How do we show that we believe?" In that moment, the weight of her question rested on his shoulders, and he understood that they were standing before a pivotal threshold. "Sometimes it's not just about believing, but acting on that belief," he replied, his heart swelling. "We seek clarity through our willingness to move forward. God wants our hearts to align with His." As if responding to his words, the river surged, sending ripples dancing outward. The angelic figure, still perceptible in the depths, seemed to nod gently, encouraging them to take a leap of faith. Thomas gestured towards the river with renewed passion. "Let us prepare our hearts. Close your eyes. Feel the presence of the Holy Spirit as it stirs among us. Ask him what he desires of you." The villagers obeyed, eyes fluttering shut, hands clasped in prayer. Moments passed, punctuated only by the gentle lapping of the water against the shore. Thomas could sense the energy rising, an electric unity enveloping them as they surrendered their fears and doubts. Then, breaking through the silence, one by one, they began to speak, their voices trembling with revelation. "I feel led to help the sick," drifted from Mrs. Thompson, her voice. "I want to reach out to the lonely," said young Samuel with a firm resolve, a spark kindling in his chest. "I need to forgive," whispered Mr. McCarthy, tears spilling from his eyes. As these declarations mingled with the breeze, the river responded in kind, its colors swirling in a magnificent dance. Berry hues merged with brilliant blues, creating an aura that wrapped around the villagers, enveloping their spirits in radiant warmth. "It's like we're being wrapped in God's love," Mary exclaimed, eyes wide, her heart alight with newfound revelation. Thomas's heart soared at each witness of faith rising. This wasn't merely a gathering, it was a holy mobilization. Each person was awakening to their divine purpose, shaking off the chains of doubt that had previously held them captive. "What we offer today reflects our hearts," Thomas declared, excitement weaving through his words. "As we engage, we're not just participants in our own lives, we're active players in God's unfolding story." They stood together, united and fervent, their hopes coalescing into a chorus of faith. Waves of healing, reconciliation, and generosity flowed from the shore. The river twinkled like 1,000 stars captured in its depths. Then the figure of the angel transformed, morphing into myriad faces, some familiar, some unknown. Each visage smiled with encouragement, a reminder of the countless followers of God who had walked this path before them. Thomas felt a stirring in his soul as he gazed upon the mystical dance of colors, suddenly aware of a fear mingling with his excitement. What if we fail to uphold this sacred calling? But deep within his heart, a voice echoed, a soft reassurance that they were not alone in this journey. God's strength would carry them through every challenge. As they stepped back from the river, the air thick with a sense of anointing, Thomas knew they had crossed a threshold. Yet his spirit itched with curiosity about the next step. What other mysteries await us, he pondered, leaning into the sacred unknown. Amidst the vibrant hues and profound declarations, something divine whispered of what was to come. The atmosphere shifted as Thomas stood at the edge of the river, heart racing with anticipation. The words exchanged moments ago echoed in his mind, each promise full of potential, each revelation a thread woven into God's intricate tapestry. Just as the waters shimmered in vibrant hues, so too did the hopes of the villagers glow in their hearts. Mary's innocent question lingered, stirring something deep within him. What does he want us to do? It was more than a question, it was a challenge. Sharing devotedly with the villagers, the adventure ahead promised discoveries sweeter than honey and deeper than the river's depths. "Let us unite, friends," Thomas called out, the fervor in his spirit igniting the atmosphere. One by one, faces turned toward him, hopeful yet uncertain. As if orchestrated by an unseen hand, the stillness broke again, and another voice rose, fragile yet full of courage. "I feel his call too, Thomas." It was Mrs. Thompson, tears glistening in her eyes. "I want to organize a gathering to help those in need." A ripple of fervor washed over the crowd. The spark had ignited. Samuel echoed his desire. Can we bring life, joy, and laughter to those who feel lost? Absolutely, Thomas said, his heart buoyant. Each step we take collaboratively transforms our fear into action. This is what our faith looks like in motion. With their eyes tightly shut again, the villagers began to pray aloud, harmonizing their calls for direction. Each voice a note in a beautiful melody of faith. Lord, guide us, strengthen us. They surrounded Thomas like a holy circle, hearts bound in a shared purpose. Thomas could see the colors of the river shifting as if responding to their calls. The electric energy seemed to pulse, bringing clarity and urgency. What would be revealed to them next? What divine purpose would emerge from their commitment? It was in this moment of expectant silence that he felt a deep stirring, a flicker of revelation. He glanced around at their faces, radiant with possibility, before saying, "We must lean into the unknown, serve without expecting returns. Our secrets lie not in what we can gain, but in what we can give away." The villagers nodded, yet Thomas could see the questions swirling still. What if this journey brought challenges? What if the fear of failure loomed larger than their faith? "Let's embrace the mystery," he urged, excitement building. Even the very act of reaching out to one another strengthens our trust in the Lord, forming bonds from which miracles will spring. As if to confirm his words, the river surged one more time, sending a wave of shimmering light cascading over them. A warmth enveloped the crowd, washing over their doubts. They felt held, wrapped in divine assurance. Suddenly, the air shifted again, heavy with something sacred. The villagers turned their faces to the river, observing carefully as the surface shimmered and twisted like a silk sheet unfurling in the light of dawn. Near the center, a luminous figure began to form, its features ethereal yet familiar. Thomas's breath caught in his throat, and he recognized him, the prophet Enoch, his presence woven through the fabric of Scripture. With a serene smile, Enoch raised his hand, beckoning them closer. "Faithful ones, your hearts have stirred. Allow the flames of your desires to burn even brighter," he spoke, his voice resonating with a soothing cadence. "In 7 days, a testament will materialize. Each of you shall play a part." The villagers gasped, murmurs of excitement mingling with awe. A prophetic message? A miraculous calling? With their hearts alight, they all knew they stood on the brink of something monumental. What awaited them in the unfolding saga of God's plan? Thomas felt a thrilling mix of anticipation and fear. 7 days was not long, but it wasn't without trepidation. He could feel the rush of uncertainty and exhilaration, mixing together, a whirlwind of faith poised for action. What divine encounters awaited them, and would they savor the blessings hidden within the challenge? A world of possibilities opened before them, each one humming with the potential of discovery. As the river flowed, a question hung vibrant in the air. Would they step boldly into their calling, ready to embrace the unfolding story of God's greatness? As the glow of Enoch's presence faded into the rippling waters, the villagers stood frozen, hearts pounding in unison. The moment felt sacred. They were witnesses to something extraordinary. Thomas could feel the weight of Enoch's words settle upon them, a promise that both excited and terrified. 7 days, he murmured to himself, trying to grasp the full significance of this divine message. What task awaited them? Would they be ready when the time came? The village buzzed with energy, each person lost in their thoughts, contemplating the role they were to play. Thomas felt the pull of their collective hope and anxiety, a dance of both courage and doubt. "Let's not waste a moment," Thomas urged, breaking through the trance. "We need to prepare ourselves for this journey. What talents do we each bring? What tools do we possess?" His eyes sparkled with fervor as he scanned the crowd. Mary spoke up, her voice steady. "We could start by visiting the elderly. They have stories that could guide us. Their wisdom shines light upon our path." "A wonderful idea," Thomas exclaimed, encouraged by her insight. "We will gather their stories and begin our outreach from there. We must seek our elders and honor their legacies." One by one, the villagers nodded in agreement. Samuel stood tall, determination etched across his face. "I can prepare a meal for them. Nothing brings people together like sharing food. We can open our homes and hearts." Exhilaration unfolded in the crowd, a desire igniting like flames in a hearth. Ideas flew forward like arrows aimed at a common goal. They began to brainstorm ways to unite their skills, balancing each individual's strengths against others' needs. The conversations grew richer, filled with laughter, plans, and tender dreams. "Don't forget about the children," Mrs. Thompson chimed in, her eyes bright. "What if we set up a gathering at the church, somewhere safe for everyone? We can share songs, play games, and keep the joy alive among us." Thomas felt the harmony of their voices lift the air, and in those moments he realized how they were not just preparing to serve others, but also strengthening their own community. Each word spoken was a thread tying their hearts together, weaving a fabric of hope. As night began to settle, thick clouds gathered overhead, shrouding the moon, but the warmth of the villagers' spirits burned brightly. "Let's bind ourselves in prayer once more," Thomas suggested, leading them into a solemn circle. As they bowed their heads, their whispers rose like incense, filling the air. "Lord, guide us in this calling. Steer us through the obstacles to come. May we serve you and each other with love." As they prayed together, Thomas felt a warmth envelop him, a steady assurance pressing into his heart. He remembered the rising waters, the way they shimmered with potential. But once again, doubt flickered at the edges of his mind. What if they weren't enough? What if the time they had was inadequate? The villagers broke the prayer, eyes glistening with determination. They began to share personal testimonies of faith, moments where they had felt God's presence profoundly. Each story wrapped around Thomas like a blanket of faith, lifting his spirit higher. Suddenly, a flash of lightning split the night, illuminating the dark sky for just an instant. Gasps filled the air, followed by rolling thunder that shook the ground beneath their feet. Something was brewing, and it felt powerful. "Tomorrow will bring challenges," Thomas whispered, his heart racing. How would they face the unknown together? What storms might arise before the prophecy was fulfilled? As the storm clouds swirled above them, the villagers embraced the night, hearts bold with purpose. Would they hold steadfast to their faith as the winds of change began to blow? In the coming days, how would their resolve shape the journey ahead? The mysteries of God's plan awaited, each moment pregnant with possibility. As the wind howled softly, a question brought forth. Would their unity be enough to carry them through the trials ahead? With the first rays of dawn breaking the darkness, an air of anticipation enveloped the village. The clouds loomed heavy overhead, yet there was an undeniable sense of clarity stirring within the hearts of the villagers. Minutes seemed to stretch, as if time itself held its breath, awaiting their next move. Thomas awoke early, invigorated by the promise of new beginnings. He gathered the villagers again at the foot of the ancient oak tree, their meeting place, the heart of their community. He could see the anxiety mirrored in everyone's eyes, but there was also an ember of excitement. "Today, we embark on our first steps," he said, his voice steady and soothing. "We will listen to our elders. Their stories will be the foundation of our journey." They nodded, their spirits lifting at these words. The group split into smaller clusters, some heading to Mrs. Thompson's cozy home where the scent of freshly baked bread wafted through open windows. Others made their way to the quiet abode of Old Man Harris, known for his adventurous tales and hearty laughter. Every step felt charged with purpose. Every door they knocked on echoed with a sacred unity. Inside Mrs. Thompson's home, laughter mingled with the aromas of breakfast. Children clustered around the table, their eyes sparkling like morning dew, eagerly sharing their own brilliant ideas for the upcoming gathering. "We can put on a play," chirped little Anna, her cheeks flushed with enthusiasm. "And everyone can join in." Mrs. Thompson smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "That's a wonderful notion, my dear. Together, we can create something truly special." Meanwhile, in Old Man Harris's dimly lit living room, tales flowed freely. He spoke of storms that had swept through the village decades ago, recounting how love and unity had seen them through the darkest times. His voice cracked with emotion as he recalled moments of faith that lit the way like lanterns in a deepening night. Thomas listened intently. Each word was a thread weaving the fabric of hope amongst them. His heart thudded like the rhythm of a drum, resonating with the weight of their shared past and the promise of what was to come. "Remember, faith is often tested in the midst of chaos," Old Man Harris emphasized, meeting Thomas's gaze. "When the winds howl and the waters rise, that is when we hold tight to one another." As the day unfolded into a tapestry of stories, shared meals, and laughter, the storm clouds above darkened further, filling the sky with an ominous stillness. A brewing tension hovered, but the bonds formed among the villagers began to weave a protective tapestry around them. That evening, they reconvened under the oak tree, each person carrying a piece of wisdom from their visits. Eager voices shared snippets of memories and messages that sparked an even deeper longing to connect and understand the path ahead. As twilight deepened, a shiver traced down Thomas's spine. His earlier doubts whispered once more, tugging at his heart. His mind raced with the potential storms, unsure of the strength they could muster against the overpowering trials they might face. But then a flicker of light erupted from the gathered villagers' spirits, a profound realization that overshadowed any lingering fears. "We will not stand alone," he spoke, finding strength in his own voice. "Together we become stronger. Let us embrace the divine challenge ahead." The collective fervor felt electric as they joined in prayer again, hands clasped tightly. They called out for strength, for courage, for unity, a symbol of trust in whatever manifestations lay before them. Suddenly, the skies ruptured with a blinding flash of lightning, illuminating everyone's faces. Thunder rumbled like the voice of God, shaking the ground beneath their feet. And then, just as quickly as it came, a peaceful calm descended, a divine reassurance ebbing through each heart. They felt it, a promise of divine presence hovering around them like an unseen shield. As the last echoes of thunder faded into the distance, Thomas's mind raced with new questions. How would they harness this divine faith to confront their uncertainties? With each breath, he could feel the anticipation thicken like the air before a storm. As he looked around, faces lit with hope, the spirit of their mission surged, stronger than doubt, resilient through fear. But what trials lay just beyond the horizon, ready to test their unity? They had ignited the spark, but would it burn bright enough to guide them through the darkening clouds? As the villagers gathered in the shadows of the ancient oak, the air crackled with energy. They shared in quiet contemplation, their hearts synced in faith, grounding them as raindrops began to drip from the looming clouds above. Each drop felt like a gentle reminder of their promise, a call to embrace whatever challenges were ahead. "Look!" someone whispered, pointing to the sky, where a single ray of sunlight broke through the heavy gray. Hope stirred like the light itself, illuminating their faces and filling the space with warmth. It was a moment of divine grace, a small but powerful reminder that light sometimes finds a way, even in the darkest storms. Thomas, feeling the weight of collective anticipation, stepped forward. "Friends," he began, his voice steady despite the heaviness of the clouds, Today, we stand at the threshold. Each story shared has ignited the power of our community. We must continue to cultivate this strength. "Let's not forget Old Man Harris's words," said Mary, her vibrant spirit cutting through the tension. "When the winds howl, we hold tight to one another. We must remain close, united like branches of this oak, weathering storms together." A chorus of murmurs spread through the crowd, affirming this sacred truth. Their unity was their strength. Thomas felt his heart swell. They were beginning to realize that what they had forged was more than just connection. It was a living promise of hope. Yet the clouds churned ominously, heavy with impending rain, and Thomas's heart drummed a beat of worry. They had faced small challenges together, but what if the coming test was more than they imagined? What if their bonds were pushed to the breaking point? Before he could dwell on those thoughts, Anna's cheerful voice broke the quiet contemplation. "We can write our own stories, just like Old Man Harris. What if we combine them into one big tale for everyone to share? A story that brings light to our village." Around them, faces brightened with a spark of excitement. "That's a brilliant idea," someone replied, igniting a flurry of discussion as they envisioned tales of bravery and togetherness, a living testament of their faith. Lost in the joyful chatter, the first droplets of rain began to fall. The sound mixed with their laughter, creating a symphony of unity. They moved closer together, instinctively forming a circle, arms linked as the first downpour broke over them. As the rain fell, their shared laughter transformed into a hymn of gratitude, a sacramental chant rising into the atmospheric gloom. Each drop was a blessing from above, a reminder that even in storms there exists the ability to flourish. Suddenly, the winds picked up, whipping around branches and leaves. The storm was truly upon them. But they stood firm, shoulder to shoulder, their hearts blazing with faith. "No matter what may come, we shall face it as one," Thomas declared, his voice rising above the storm's roar. As if in response to their unified spirit, a brilliant flash of lightning illuminated the sky, and slowly, a deep voice. It wasn't thunder. It felt different, like a message carried on the wind. "Enoch's path is revealed." In an instant, the energy shifted. The villagers froze, eyes wide, hearts pounding. Some murmured in awe, while others clung to each other tightly. Thomas felt a shiver cascade down his spine. The voice was profound, reverberating with the weight of destiny. "What could it mean?" a voice quavered in the back. There was both fear and exhilaration swirling in the air. He dared to look up, his spirit yearning for understanding. "God is calling us forth," Thomas proclaimed, belief igniting his words, transforming fear into a clarion of hope. "If Enoch spoke of a path, then it's time we seek it together. What wonders await when we stand united in faith?" With hearts filled with determination, they raised their voices together in song, creating a powerful hymn that mingled with the rain's relentless cadence. Each note vibrated in the air, a testament to their faith, a beautiful declaration amid the storm. As they sang, a flicker of lightning split the sky again, followed by the same deep voice whispering, "In 7 days, great might shall follow." Would the villagers be ready to embrace this new calling? What miraculous journey awaited them in the days ahead? The promise brooded in the air, enigmatic as the gathering storm. As the light broke over the horizon, so did understanding flood the hearts of the villagers. Thomas awoke, still resonant with Enoch's powerful voice that echoed in his mind. "In 7 days, great might shall follow." They had taken a leap into faith, But now, with the dawn of the 6th day fast approaching, the urgency of God's proclamation hung thick in the air. The village, once weighed down by doubt, pulsed with life as Thomas gathered everyone around the ancient oak tree once more. The rain had cleansed the earth, and the sky, now a canvas of vibrant hues, reflected their rekindled hope. "Friends, today we commit to the last of our preparations," he declared, surveying eager faces filled with anticipation. "Our purpose these last days is to bring light to those bound by darkness." "Let us embrace the call to serve," cried Mary, her bold spirit igniting the crowd. A resounding cheer echoed back. Excitement fluttered like birds in flight as plans sparked anew. Ideas cascaded, giving shape to their final outreach efforts. "We must rally the children," suggested Mrs. Thompson, her eyes twinkling. "Let them bring joy through creativity, art, and laughter, a revelry that draws the community together." "Yes," cried Samuel, his hands raised high. "And let us prepare meals to share, not just food, but hope, delivered in warm plates, reminding all that they are loved." As each person contributed their gifts, a profound unity emerged, a collective heartbeat rooted in love and purpose. They carried their plans to houses of those who needed their light and warmth. Old Man Harris recounted the echoes of his youthful days, where had danced across the fields. Mrs. Thompson gathered the children, teaching them to paint vibrant murals of the love they felt. Thomas felt the stirring of the Holy Spirit within. This sense of divine purpose and community was a miracle wrapped in action. But with each passing hour came the weight of doubt he had fought to keep at bay. "What if our efforts aren't enough?" he mused, yet his heart responded fiercely. "What if God's might rests not on perfection, but on our willingness to act?" As dusk swept in, the villagers gathered one final time beneath the oak tree, hands joined. Their voices rose in a chorus of praise. With every note sung, they reaffirmed their commitment to trust in God's promise. They were a family born out of faith, nurtured through trials, now stepping boldly into their calling. That night, the air buzzed with expectancy as they prepared for the grand unveiling on the 7th day. But beneath the excitement, a haunting fear lingered. The specter of failure loomed large. Thomas bit his lip, knowing that miracles often follow struggles, yet believing that God was leading them into the unexpected. As dawn approached the 7th day, the villagers gathered at the riverbank, optimism hanging like morning mist. What awaited them? Thomas shared Enoch's word once more. In 7 days, great might would follow. Each heartbeat echoed that promise, inflating their faith. Slowly, the sun peered over the village, casting shimmering gold threads across the river's surface. As it warmed the land, the vibrant colors began to swirl anew. Mirroring their unity, God's creation danced before them, a show of life and joy. And then it happened. A ripple surged from the center of the river, illuminating vibrant images that took form above the water. The specter of the angel emerged, beckoning them closer. Gasps erupted from the crowd, eyes wide with wonder. "God has heard our prayers," shouted Thomas, feeling warmth bloom within his chest. The angelic figure spoke words that interwove with the fabric of their spirits. "Your faith has called forth the miracles you seek. Each act of love renders light into the shadows. Raise your voices together in praise, for you have embraced the very heart of God's purpose." Tears coursed down parents' faces as laughter mingled with shouts of joy. "We are bound as one," Thomas proclaimed, his spirit alight with the presence of the Almighty. As they raised their voices in one unified song, light erupted from each villager, blending into a cascade of luminescence that danced upon the river's surface. Their collective efforts had birthed more than they had ever envisioned. As the radiant vision faded, the villagers stood, forever changed, hearts ignited with purpose. Their burdens had become blessings through their service, illuminating lives with hope. "Enoch's promise is fulfilled," declared Thomas, his voice ringing true. "It was never about our strength alone, but about believing together." With newfound joy, laughed, embraced, and praised the Lord.
Cozy homes would welcome weary souls. Light had shattered darkness, and the miraculous journey they had embarked upon had only just begun. Now, dear friends, it is imperative that you take part in this story that echoes through the ages. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive faith stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let the world witness these miracles. Comment your reactions and testimonies about this ending. What did this story ignite in your spirit? And most importantly, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation of faith. You need to support this channel because only true servants of God understand the power of unity, testimony, and divine purpose. Don't wait even one more second to share.